I'm Allison Carrington. I'm actually with Skills Development Scotland for my day job. I'm the Regional Skills Planning Lead up here in Aberdeen City and Shire. I focus only on City and Shire because I also work very closely with Opportunity North East. But I'm here today in my role as Chair of Aberdeen Prospers, which is one of the outcome improvement groups for Community Planning Aberdeen. Before I get started, because I don't want to preach to the converted, can I get a show of hands, please, for those of you that are aware of community planning and also of the work of Aberdeen Prospers? Couple, good. Okay, so a few of you. I'm more than happy to answer questions as we go through, so if you've got a question and I'm not making something clear, please stick up your hand and I will answer it as we go, or I'll be available afterwards. Okay. So community planning is actually a grouping of people. It's a statutory requirement set out by the government. There are some partners that are statutory partners and there are some that are voluntary partners. But in Aberdeen we have about 14 partners across the city who are partners in delivering community planning. Partners are listed up here, so they range from the public sector organisations like NHS, the police, people like that. We also have some private sector organisations in supporting us. Under that community planning, we have a number of things that we try to do. The aim of the community planning across the city is to support both the communities and the businesses in Aberdeen City specifically. Each of the local authorities has its own community planning, so I'm speaking about Aberdeen City. We're aiming to support communities and businesses to develop in order to best support our communities and ideally those who are living in poverty or further from the workplace or who are struggling just that little bit to try and lift them up in that levelling up agenda. We have a number of businesses that we work with here listed on the right-hand side, and we have a number of strategies which help to support the work that we're doing, one of which here is the Community Empowerment Strategy, which has just recently been updated. That's the 2023 to 2026 strategy. We have a good vision for the place. We need a good vision before we can get started, and the vision for Aberdeen City is a place where all people can prosper. Now, it's important that we're bringing everybody forward with us, and one of the really strong parts of the community planning is it feeds in and helps to support our newly developed regional economic strategy, which also feeds into the national strategy for economic transformation. So there is a feed through from what Scottish Government's doing, right the way through to the region, right the way through to communities, and right down to localities, which are areas that we deem to be areas that might require a little bit more support, such as Torry or Kincorth or Northfield. I'm not saying everybody in those areas does need more support, but we have identified areas across the city where we can target the work that we are doing in order to support the individuals there. So we want everybody to prosper, as I've said, and that is regardless of their circumstances or their background or what they're currently going through at the moment. And we really do try to engage with the communities across the city to make sure that the work that we are doing is supporting their aims and ambitions. So we're working with the communities rather than delivering to them. And it's really important that we bring the communities along with us. And in doing that, it's also important that we engage businesses to support that work that we are doing. The strategy theme that we have at the moment has three main themes. We've got economy, under which Aberdeen Prospers sits, the group that I chair. We also have a theme around supporting people, and we have a theme around supporting place. Obviously, I can speak more about the economy side of it, but I'm obviously happy to answer questions about the other two sides if you're happy. Under those three themes, we have what are called stretch outcomes. So they're main ambitions about things that we aim to do over the period of the time that the strategy is live for. So our current strategy, our local outcome improvement plan, is from 2015 to 2026. So we're coming to the end of that one and we're starting to develop our new one, but I'll come back to that in just a moment. So we have 15 stretch outcomes under that strategy. I'll give you an example of two of them. It's the ones that we're working towards. One of them is to support 400 people from Aberdeen City who are further from the workplace into fair work, sustainable fair work. The other one is to support people, like 500 people, to upskill, reskill, cross-skill in order to allow them to take advantage of opportunities across the economy as they become available. Now, those numbers might not seem particularly high, but you have to remember the work that we are doing is in addition to all the other work that is going on. And we're also working, or have been historically, in quite a tough economic climate when you think of COVID, think of leaving the EU, all the other things that are going on in the background. I don't need to list them all, but we're quite a tough economic background at the moment. And we're actually doing very, very well in delivery at the moment. We'll come back to that in a moment. We deliver those stretch outcomes through projects, or improvement projects as they're called, and we have a number under each of our 2 stretch outcomes that we're delivering. Those improvement projects have to be of the form that not one particular organisation can deliver them. So as an example, if Skills Development Scotland could deliver a project on its own, we would go off and do it. These projects are projects where we want to get everybody, or as many organisations, involved as possible, where the sum of the work that's done is more than each that the individual could do. And going forward in the future, we're very keen that we get business support and business backup or sponsorship in order to deliver some of the projects that we are delivering, which is where I'm going to come to you and explain to you how you can get involved as we go forward. So looking under the economy section here, you can see that the outcome improvement stretch outcomes we've got are upskilling 500 people, which I've said, supporting people into work. We've got an overarching one here where no one will suffer due to poverty. Now you can see that there might be some sort of crossover here. We do try to keep the projects as separate as possible, but there is often an overlap in some of the work that we are doing, just from the nature of the work that we are doing. I'm not going to read them all out, but you can see obviously that we've got a number of projects under the people strategy, or people theme, and also under the place theme. But they all have the same aim and ambition, in that we're aiming to help the communities across Aberdeen City to develop and prosper going forward. So underpinning our local outcome improvement plan, we have 3 place strategies, one of these for each of the locality areas across the city. Conveniently, the city is divided into north, south and central, which means that we've got one for the north of Aberdeen, one for the south of Aberdeen and one for central area. And these have been developed very much with the community in mind. We work with the community to develop what they feel are important areas to drive forward. We work through workshops, we have various different ways of contacting people across the community to find out what is important to these people, both with regards to the place, the people and the economy in that area, and how they feel that we can support them. And it was through discussing things with the people in these different localities that we came up with the projects that we have. So obviously fair work, access to training are all important for people right across Aberdeen City. And similarly for the other areas, they have discussed what's important across the communities to develop the projects that they are given. So how can you get involved? This side's going to be repeated as we go through, because I am really keen that you all get involved in what we're doing. There are a number of ways that people can become involved in any part of the Outcome Improvement Group projects going forward. You can either share your views. We quite often have surveys going around, so you can participate in surveys as they're sent out. You can contact the Community Planning Department and share your views through them. You can even just catch me in the coffee in the corridor out there. I'm always up for a chat over coffee, and share your views that way. There are many ways that you can share your views. Sharing your knowledge and experience to improve outcomes is also quite important. You can do that again in a number of ways. It would be lovely if some of you could volunteer to help deliver some projects at any time, start to sponsor projects, and we can share what those projects are if you're interested in helping to do that. You can request to be involved, you can help to deliver projects, you can do things like offer work placements, you can take on apprenticeships, you can offer upskilling and reskilling. There's a million ways that you can get involved without actually having to put any finance into it. We don't usually ask for financial incentive, financial help, certainly not through Aberdeen Prospers. If you do have money for the go, I'm sure we can accept that as well. But there are ways that you can get involved just by giving your time, your expertise and your knowledge. And you can also sign up for business updates, and that'll let you know what we're doing across the city and let you see the areas that you can get involved in as we go on. Here are a number of the improvement projects that we are delivering as part of our economy side theme. So we're looking at fuel poverty, and we're trying to ease the burden on homes that are undergoing fuel poverty. We're trying to increase the uptake of unclaimed benefits to help people who aren't claiming perhaps what they're entitled to, again to lift them out of poverty. But obviously claiming benefits isn't the only way to get out of poverty. A lot of people want to get back into work. So using our employability services and our training services, we're helping to support people to apply for, train for, and get into work and remain in that sustained work. Wendy, I think it was earlier on, mentioned that we're a real living wage city. We've got Martin Barry here, sorry I'm going to name you, who's driving forward the Real Living Wage project. We have Aberdeen City recognised as a real living wage city, and one of our projects is to increase the number of companies that deliver the real living wage to their staff. So it's important that even if people are employed, they're employed in a way that they can actually afford to keep themselves and pay their own way. So we want to support people into sustained, good quality work. Now, it's not just any, I'm going to say this, it's not just poor work of washing up dishes, but if that is what somebody wants to do and if that's what somebody is capable of doing, we're happy to support people into that kind of work. So it's good quality work, commensurate with a person's expectations and abilities. But ideally, real living wage, good quality work, perhaps with flexible working hours to allow perhaps single parents to come back into work. Maybe it'll allow people to, flex if their transport requirements are slightly different. Thinking of ways that we can support people into work that might not normally come into mind just by offering a work opportunity. Thinking about children and young people, we have a number of different projects in here. Again, they're supporting family and parents, both with regard to helping support children during the school holidays, childcare, lunches. School lunches are a big thing for some families. Obviously, when schools are on holidays, the young children don't get a school lunch, so we can help to support with things like that. Ensuring young people feel safer in their communities, and you've got to engage with those young people to understand why it is that they perhaps don't feel safe and what would perhaps make them feel safer. So there are a range of things that we can do to support the people, specifically young people across our city. Other things that we can do to support people, not specifically young people, are helping support for unpaid carers. There's quite a hidden population of people across the city who are perhaps caring for children, adults, partners, spouses, husbands, wives, grandparents, parents, or whatever. And that can really impact on their ability to both study and to work. And if you're a young student, perhaps at school or at college, but you also have caring responsibilities, that can be a real burden on your ability to progress and get forward. So we offer support for those, supporting people to make healthier food choices, and supporting people around vulnerable and disadvantaged people who are homeless perhaps, and helping them to get back on their feet. And then we also have the Place projects. These are mainly around things that we can do with helping to adapt the environment or support the environment to be reducing our carbon emissions. I think somebody else in a meeting earlier, we were speaking about the aim for people across the city and shire to reduce their carbon emissions or carbon footprint by 80% over the next few years. This project will feed into that. We can increase the uptake of sustainable travel. We have quite a good bus network in Aberdeen. Not so good in the Shire. I'm going to say that because I live in the Shire and I can't rely on the bus. It doesn't go where I want it to go, when I want it to go. But there are ways that you can walk or you can cycle or you can use other sustainable ways of transport. We can start to think about growing our own food, teach people in schools specifically about growing your food and how you can then adapt that and cook it. Cooking lessons are quite a thing these days, not just for young people, but we've gone through a few generations of people who are more used to taking pre-made food in supermarkets or whatever and don't necessarily have those skills to cook themselves. So ways of saving money and eating more healthily, they can be helped with this. So I spoke about our community empowerment strategy just recently. This is the new one from 2023. And the ambition for that is for all communities to be equal community planning partners. This comes back to engaging with the communities and making sure that we speak to them and work with them rather than doing to them what they may not actually want. So we really need to engage with communities in the work that we are doing. Now, I spoke about local outcome improvement plan. The current one is to 2026. It's rapidly coming up. So yesterday, Aberdeen Prospers Group had the first workshop looking at developing our next strategy, which will run to 2036. And what we're looking to do here is we're looking to see which projects we have already completed or which are on track to be completed by 2026 and see if there's a way we can improve delivery of those. But we're also starting now to look at projects that we think we should be delivering by 2036. We're very early in that process at the moment. We're looking at what our economic data is showing us. That's for the economy side. The other people will be looking at people in place. We're looking at the economic data to see where we feel that our interventions might be best felt. For instance, and this is not in stone yet, so please bear with me if this doesn't get in it, but supporting childcare provision perhaps to help people into work. We'll then go out and discuss with the community partners and the community residents to see what they want and make sure that we're trying to adapt our projects and also in order to deliver for the community, but while supporting the economy and supporting people back into work. We're aiming to have the new strategy in place by the beginning of next year, if I remember correctly. It's quite a tight timeline, and that will take us up to 2036. Now that is quite a long period of time, but we do set small projects that have specific timelines, and we're going to have to work to those timelines and then redevelop and start thinking about how we can either adapt or bring in new projects to hit the thing. So if anybody here feels that they want to get involved in any of the work going forward, I personally, as chair of the Aberdeen Prosperous Group, would be more than happy to hear from you. One of the things we had discussion about yesterday was that we do need to get more businesses involved. It's the businesses that can help push this forward. And we're not necessarily looking for your money, but some of your time, your advice, even if it's with marketing, sharing knowledge, offering placement opportunities, offering upskilling, reskilling, anything you feel you can do, I would be very happy to hear about it. We will find a way of making it work for you. The other thing that we're also very interested in ensuring is that we work to build community wealth building. So in a nutshell, that is making sure that the money that we develop in the city region stays in the city region. So we start to use local suppliers, we start to use more local tradesmen, and we start to keep the wealth here where we can, with more community ownership of places. So again, I don't know where you're all from, I don't recognise many faces in here, but if you're local, this is good news for you, if you're a supplier or a tradesman or whatever. We really do want to be using local businesses where we can, making sure that we keep the wealth that's generated in this region for our local residents to use. Why get involved? I think I've already answered that, so I'll probably just read a lot of this over. You'll help improve people's lives if you can support some of these projects. You can influence what happens at community level. Now, I've been speaking about the residents, but you're all residents somewhere. I don't know where you live, but wherever you live, if it's in Aberdeen City or Aberdeenshire, it will obviously help to enhance your community as well. You can influence what happens in those communities. You can build stronger relationships within the communities. You can help us reduce duplication of effort and work and duplication of people knocking on your door asking for help. If you come and say, well, I'm already doing this, don't want to get involved, or I'm doing this, but I think I could do this a little bit extra. And you'll also get access to support and guidance should you need it on ways that you can help individually and perhaps ways that we can help you. So this has to be a two-way street. You can come and help us. We are a big organisation. We have SDS, we have Scottish Enterprise, we have the local authorities, NHS, the police. There might be ways in which we can also help you. So a little bit of give and take. Repeat of the slide, I think this is the last one, emphasising ways that you can get involved. So if you've got a camera, so some of you were taking pictures, that's probably the one that you want to take a picture of. You'll all have contact details for people that you signed up here with. My go-to person is Charlotte Saunders. There she is, she was hiding next door. Any more questions, you can ask Charlotte. She knows everything there is to know about community planning. She's my lead contact for Aberdeen Prospers, and without her I couldn't do my job, so thank you. And some contact details there. I'm assuming these will be shared. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Oh, sorry, next one. So thank you very much. I think that's my time up. Happy to answer any questions now if anyone, yes. How is the information passed on? We have gentleman here's asking how this information is passed on to the people who need the support. Very good question. We have regular contact through the communities with our local community groups to speak to them. We also work with the Civic Forum, and we have survey papers and various newsletters. We do have a problem getting the information out though, because people will only hear what they're looking to hear. So if they're not engaging with these groups, it's quite difficult to contact them. And if there's any way you can help us share the information more widely, I would be really pleased to hear it. Even just suggestions. I've been told it's time, I've got to run. But Charlotte's behind you if you need any more advice.